You're about to discover something that 90% of men completely overlook, something that's been happening right in front of you, possibly for years, and you've been blind to it. Think about the last time you were talking to a woman you found attractive, and you walked away wondering if she was interested or just being polite. That uncertainty, that confusion, that frustration of not knowing where you stand, it's about to end today. Because what I'm about to share with you isn't some pickup artist nonsense or manipulative tactics. It's about developing the awareness and confidence to recognize what's already there. The subtle signals that women have been sending you that you've been too distracted or too uncertain to notice. This isn't about tricks or lines or pretending to be someone you're not. This is about understanding the language of attraction that's been spoken around you your entire life, a language you were never taught to read. Most men walk through life completely oblivious to the opportunities surrounding them, not because women aren't interested, but because they're looking for the wrong signs or waiting for some grand gesture that rarely comes. Women communicate interest differently than men do. And if you're waiting for her to walk up and tell you directly that she's attracted to you, you'll be waiting forever. The reality is that attraction operates on a different frequency, one that's more subtle, more nuanced, and infinitely more powerful once you understand how to tune into it. When you finish listening to this, you'll never look at interactions the same way again, because you'll finally see what's been invisible to you. The micro-expressions, the body language shifts, the verbal patterns that reveal genuine interest versus mere politeness. Let me paint you a picture of what most men experience. You're at a coffee shop, a bookstore, maybe a gym, and you notice her across the room. There's something about her energy that draws you in, but you hesitate because you're not sure if approaching would be welcome or awkward. So you wait for a sign, some clear indication that it's safe to proceed, but that sign never seems clear enough, does it? Meanwhile, she might have already given you 5 different signals that she's open to connection, signals that you missed because nobody ever taught you what to look for. This gap between what's actually happening and what you're perceiving is costing you connections, relationships, and experiences that could transform your life. The truth is, women are constantly communicating their level of interest or disinterest, but they're doing it in a language that most men never learn to speak. The first thing you need to understand is that attraction isn't logical, it's biological and emotional, which means the signs of attraction often bypass conscious thought entirely. When a woman is genuinely attracted to you, her body responds in ways she can't fully control, and these responses create patterns you can learn to recognize. One of the most overlooked signs is the way her voice changes when she's talking to you compared to how she speaks with others. Pay attention next time you're in a group setting. Notice how her tone might become slightly higher, more melodic, or how she might speak more slowly and deliberately when addressing you specifically. This isn't something she's choosing to do. It's an unconscious response to attraction that creates a more intimate acoustic space between you. Most men never notice this because they're too focused on what she's saying rather than how she's saying it. But the how tells you everything you need to know about her emotional state. Another signal that flies under the radar for most men is what I call proximity patterns. When a woman is attracted to you, she'll find reasons to be in your physical space without making it obvious. This isn't about her throwing herself at you, it's about subtle positioning that creates opportunities for connection. She might choose to stand next to you in a group when there are other spots available, or she might position herself in your line of sight repeatedly throughout an evening. Watch for the woman who always seems to end up near you at social gatherings. Not in an aggressive way, but in a consistent pattern that defies coincidence. She's creating what psychologists call approach opportunities, moments where you could naturally start a conversation without it feeling forced. But here's where most men fail. They notice her proximity, but explain it away as coincidence instead of recognizing it as an invitation. The eyes tell a story that most men completely misread or ignore altogether. When a woman is attracted to you, her pupils dilate slightly, a physiological response she has no control over, but more importantly, notice the pattern of her eye contact. It's not just about whether she looks at you, it's about how she looks at you and what happens immediately after. A woman who's interested will often make eye contact, look away, and then look back within a few seconds, sometimes with a slight smile or a subtle change in expression. Most men either do not catch this double look, or they catch it but do not know how to interpret it, missing a clear signal of interest. Let's talk about something even more subtle, the way she positions her body when you're speaking. A woman who's attracted to you will unconsciously mirror your body language. But more than that, she'll orient her body toward you even when she's engaged in other activities. Picture this scenario. You're at a social event, talking in a group, and she's having a conversation with someone else nearby. If she's interested, her body will be partially turned toward you, maybe just her shoulders or her hips, creating what I call an open channel between you. Her body is literally pointing in your direction, even when her attention seems to be elsewhere. This is her unconscious mind, keeping you in her awareness, maintaining a connection even when you're not directly interacting. Compare this to how she positions herself relative to other men in the room, and you'll start to see the pattern. The laugh factor is something that should be obvious, but somehow isn't to most men. When a woman finds you attractive, you become funnier to her, not because your jokes improve, but because attraction creates a state of heightened positive reception. She'll laugh more readily at your comments, even the ones that aren't particularly funny, and her laughter will have a different quality, more genuine, more engaged, sometimes accompanied by touching her face or hair. This isn't fake laughter or politeness. It's her emotional state making everything you do seem more appealing. Watch how she responds to other men's attempts at humor versus yours. If there's a noticeable difference in her receptiveness, that's attraction coloring her perception. Too many men dismiss this as her just being nice or having a good sense of humor, missing the fact that her response to you is uniquely enthusiastic. Physical touch is where things become more obvious, but even here, most men miss the nuances. A woman who's attracted to you will find excuses to create physical contact, but it's the type and duration of touch that reveals everything. The interested woman doesn't just tap your arm to make a point. She lets her hand linger for a fraction of a second longer than necessary. She might touch your shoulder when she laughs, adjust your collar even when it doesn't need adjusting, or find reasons to compare hand sizes or examine your watch. Each of these touches is a test. She's gauging your reaction, seeing if you're comfortable with her in your physical space, and most importantly, she's creating moments of electrical connection that build attraction. The man who recognizes these touches as invitations rather than accidents understands the game being played. Here's something most men never consider. The questions she asks you reveal her level of interest more than any other verbal indicator. A woman who's attracted doesn't just ask surface-level questions. She digs deeper, wanting to understand who you are beyond the obvious. She'll remember details from previous conversations and bring them up later, showing that you've been on her mind. She'll ask about your opinions on things that matter, your experiences, your perspectives on life. These aren't interview questions, they're investment questions. She's trying to figure out if you're someone worth knowing more deeply. Notice too how she responds to your questions. Does she give you one-word answers, or does she open up, sharing stories and experiences that she probably doesn't share with everyone? The depth of her engagement tells you everything about her interest level. The digital age has created new signals that most men completely misinterpret. If she's taking photos with you or of you, especially if she's the one initiating, that's not just about capturing memories. It's about creating connection and potentially showing you off to her social circle. Watch what happens after the photo is taken. Does she immediately want to see it? Maybe standing closer to you than necessary to view the screen. Does she ask you to send it to her, creating a reason for further contact? The interested woman uses photos as an excuse for proximity and future interaction. Similarly, if she's showing you photos on her phone, especially personal ones from her life, she's inviting you into her world, creating intimacy through shared visual experiences. Let me tell you about the verbal slip, something so subtle that even women often don't realize they're doing it. When a woman is attracted to you, she'll unconsciously include you in her future narrative. She might say things like, "We should check that out sometime," or "You'd love this place, I know," without any concrete plans being made. These aren't throwaway comments. They're her mind automatically placing you in her future experiences. She's mentally test driving what it would be like to have you in her life. Most men either don't notice these comments or brush them off as casual conversation, missing the fact that she's literally telling you she wants to spend more time with you. The key is to recognize these openings and actually follow through, turning her hypothetical suggestions into real plans. Pay attention to how she acts when other women are around you, because jealousy and competition reveal attraction like nothing else. A woman who's interested in you will subtly mark her territory when other women enter your space. This might manifest as her standing closer to you, touching you more frequently, or finding ways to demonstrate familiarity that others don't have. She might mention inside jokes or shared experiences, unconsciously signaling to other women that she has a special connection with you. Some women become more animated and engaging when competition appears, while others might become slightly possessive or protective. These behaviors aren't calculated. They're instinctive responses to perceived threats to a connection she values. The way she says goodbye tells you everything about whether she wants to see you again. An interested woman draws out departures, finding reasons to extend the interaction just a little longer. She might remember one more thing she wanted to tell you, or suddenly need to check something that requires you to wait. She'll make concrete references to seeing you again, not vague pleasantries, but specific mentions of future interaction. Her body language during goodbye is crucial. Does she maintain eye contact? Does she seem reluctant to create physical distance? Does she look back after she started walking away? These extended goodbyes are her way of not wanting the connection to end, hoping maybe you'll suggest continuing the conversation elsewhere. Now let's talk about the biggest sign that most men miss entirely: consistency of effort. A woman who's attracted to you will consistently make an effort to be in your life, even if it's in small ways. She responds to your messages promptly, not playing games with response times. She remembers things you've told her and follows up on them. She makes herself available when you suggest plans, or if she can't, she offers alternatives instead of vague excuses. This consistency is her investing in the potential of something developing between you. Too many men focus on grand gestures while missing the daily evidence of interest that's right in front of them. The woman who consistently chooses to engage with you is showing you through actions, not words, that you matter to her. Understanding these signs isn't about becoming a mind reader or manipulating anyone. It's about developing the awareness to recognize when someone is genuinely interested in connecting with you. Most men live in a state of uncertainty, always wondering where they stand, always afraid of misreading signals and facing rejection. But when you understand these patterns, you move through the world with a different energy, a confidence that comes from knowing rather than guessing. You stop wasting time pursuing women who aren't interested, and more importantly, you stop missing opportunities with women who are practically screaming their interest in a language you didn't know how to hear. The transformation that happens when you develop this awareness goes beyond just romantic success. You become more present in all your interactions, more attuned to the subtle dynamics happening around you. You start to understand that communication is only partially about words, that the real conversation is happening in the space between what's said and what's felt. This makes you not just better at recognizing attraction, but better at creating it. Because a man who truly sees and understands women is rare in a world full of men who are either oblivious or trying too hard to impress. Here's what I want you to do starting today. Stop looking for guaranteed signs that remove all risk from interaction. Life doesn't work that way, and neither does attraction. Instead, start noticing patterns. Start seeing the accumulation of small signals that point in one direction. When you see multiple signs aligning, that's your green light. Not to assume she'll fall into your arms, but to take the next step with confidence, knowing that your interest is likely to be well received. The biggest tragedy isn't rejection, it's the connections that never happen, because both people were waiting for a clearer sign that never comes. Remember that recognizing these signs is just the beginning. What matters is what you do with this knowledge. The man who sees the signals but doesn't act on them is no better off than the man who never saw them at all. In fact, he might be worse off, because he'll torture himself with what-ifs and missed opportunities. When you recognize genuine interest, you have a responsibility to yourself and to her to explore where that connection might lead. This doesn't mean being aggressive or presumptuous. It means being present, engaged, and willing to take measured risks in the service of connection. The men who struggle most with recognizing these signs are often the ones who are so caught up in their own heads, so worried about how they're being perceived, that they miss what's actually happening in front of them. They're performing rather than connecting, trying to impress rather than trying to understand. When you shift your focus from yourself to genuinely observing and appreciating the woman in front of you, these signs become impossible to miss. You stop being the guy wondering if she likes you and become the guy who knows exactly where he stands, adjusting his approach accordingly. If what you've heard today resonates with something inside you, if you're realizing how many signals you've missed over the years, don't beat yourself up about it. Awareness is the first step toward change, and you're developing that awareness right now. Drop a comment below sharing which sign surprised you most or which one you've definitely missed in the past. I read every comment, and your insights help other men recognize these patterns in their own lives. And if you know a brother who's struggling with understanding women, who's constantly confused about where he stands, send this his way. Sometimes the smallest shift in perception can change a man's entire trajectory with women. Subscribe if you want to continue developing this awareness, because understanding attraction is just the beginning of what we're building here.